Okay, so how did that go then? You writing. I hope it went well. Okay, the main things that you could be checking it for are, in fact, let me just, hi. The main things that you could be checking it for are, you know, fancy language, vocab, language features, that kind of thing. You could be checking it for structure, okay? Does it sort of vary the order? Does it, you know, start on one thing, start talking about other things? Is there sort of a flow to it? You could check if you've put paragraphs in, which is, you know, something which will help with your structure actually, and that idea of flow and order. And you can check for your range of ideas, but I suppose that's more a me thing, because it's very difficult to, you know, check your own range of ideas. Okay, so we're going to talk about the reading now. For paper one, the reading section, it has 4 questions. Okay, 4 marks, 8 marks, 8 marks, and 20 marks. Okay, so that question 4 is a big one here. I might be tempted to do that first, actually. So I think I'm going to go and do that now. Okay, good time. So follow me. Right, so let's go and have a look at question 4 and what it's actually asking. The writer brings the parties to life for the reader. It is as if you are there. Okay, so the parties, and it's like, you know, really vivid. Okay, so parties and vivid is what I'm focusing on for that. And then let me just have a look at question 2 as well. Well, question 2 is actually about the parties as well. Brilliant. Okay, so the extravagance of the parties and how vividly they're brought to life. So actually, shall I have a little practice on question 2 first, or shall we have a look at question 4? We're still going to have a look at question 4 first, because it's what I've asked you to do first. So from line 19 to the end, so I'm actually going to go up and I'm just going to see if I can highlight that in some way just while I'm reading it through. Okay, but I'm going to read the whole thing. The Great Gatsby. Okay, extract is from a novel by F. Scott Fitzgerald. In this section, the narrator describes the extravagant parties held by his rich neighbour. There was music from my neighbour's house through the summer nights. In his blue gardens, men and girls came and went like moths among the whisperings and the champagne and the stars. At high tide in the afternoon, I watched his guests diving from the tower of his raft or taking the sun on the hot sand of his beach, while 2 motorboats slipped the waters of the Sound, drawing aquaplanes over cataracts of foam. God, that's lovely. On weekends, his Rolls Royce became an omnibus. That's just like a bus, basically, bearing parties to and from the city between 9 in the morning and long past midnight, while his station wagon scampered like a brisk yellow bug to meet all trains. And on Mondays, 8 servants, including an extra gardener, toiled all day with mops and scrubbing brushes and hammers and garden shears, repairing the ravages of the night before. I'm actually going to take the opportunity now just to scroll down and have a look at question 2 and where that's from. So it's right from the start, actually. So I'm going to start taking quotes. Okay. Now, how would I do this if I were actually doing the question on Canvas? I would be highlighting them, copying them, and pasting them into my response bit to sort of work with later, I think. Okay, so I'm going to just show you here now. Came and went like moths. Okay, the whisperings and the champagne and the stars and the ravages of the night before, I think. Okay, quite like that one as well, actually. Slit the waters of the Sound. Like it's cut 'em up. Right. Every Friday, 5 crates of oranges and lemons arrived from a fruiterer in New York. Every Monday, these same oranges and lemons left his back door in a pyramid of pulpless halves. There was a machine in the kitchen which could extract the juice of 100 oranges in half an hour if a little button was pressed 200 times by a butler's thumb. take a pause now and think, what impression are you getting of this so far? All right, I'm getting the impression that it's a lot of hassle, but that they're very busy and a bit magical, these parties. At least once a fortnight, a corps of caterers came down with several 100 feet of canvas and enough coloured lights to make a Christmas tree of Gatsby's enormous garden. On buffet tables garnished with glistening hors d'oeuvre, that's just like nibbles and that, spiced baked hams crowded against salads of harlequin designs and pastry pigs and turkeys bewitched to a dark gold. In the main hall, a bar with a real brass rail was set up and stocked with gins and liquors and with cordials so long forgotten that most of his female guests were too young to know one from another. Okay, so for question 2, it's the extravagance of the parties that we're looking at, okay? So, extravagance. So it completely ruins the place, okay? That's what I'm getting from Slit and Ravages, okay? The idea that it's incredibly, overwhelmingly busy, this sort of like exaggeration, okay? Oh dear. Pressed the wrong button there, apologies, okay? These massive long lists, okay? Of all of the sort of setup for it, okay? Great long lists here, okay? So that's something to come back to when we're looking at question 2. But now we're looking at, just to check back, the writer brings the parties to life for the reader. It is as if you are there. So yes, we are still looking at the extravagance of the parties and how fantastic they are, but it's more focusing on the writer's method. How has the writer done that? How have they made it seem that way? So let's go back up and read through this section. By 7 o'clock, the orchestra has arrived. No thin 5-piece affair, but a whole pitful of oboes and trombones and saxophones and viols and cornets and piccolos and low and high drums. Do you see how you've got that listing again to emphasise how sort of extravagant, okay? So what has the writer done there? They have included a huge long list of all of the instruments. Why have they done that? To emphasise the extravagance of the parties and how fancy they are, if you will. The last swimmers have come in from the beach now and are dressing upstairs. The cars from New York are parked 5 deep in the drive, and already the halls and salons and verandas are gaudy with primary colours and hair shorn in new strange new ways, and shawls beyond the dreams of Castile. The bar is in full swing and floating rounds of cocktails permeate the garden outside until the air is alive with chatter and laughter and casual innuendo and introductions forgotten on the spot and enthusiastic meetings between women who never knew each other's names. So again, you've got that listing, and where you've got repeated methods, you could maybe say the writer repeatedly uses listing to show the true extravagance of the parties and all of the details there, okay? You could say that the writer consistently lists all of these sort of extravagant and now I want a better word than fancy. What's a better word than fancy? Lush? No, lush is that's a bit too like natural. I sort of mean rich, that's what I mean. Sort of rich environment, rich parties. Okay, so you've got that listing. Okay, you might have noticed, what else might you have noticed in there? You might have noticed that detail in there again. You might have noticed the adjectives that are starting to be used. Okay, that bit of humour to sort of, you know, almost make you feel like you're sort of a witty observer, you know, like he's like sort of taking the mick out of the party and sort of like clubbing you in with it. So it's that idea again. It's not just about the extravagant parties. Remember about question 4, and you won't have to scan about during this exam because the text will be right next to your question. It's just that I'm having to now. So it brings the parties to life. It is as if you are there. It's as if you are there. Okay. So if you were there, you wouldn't just be able to see, you'd be able to hear, you'd be able to smell, and, you know, sort of the atmosphere would be apparent to you, and any details that give you that sensory input, so what you'd be able to see, hear, smell, feel, taste, all right, all of those are going to be relevant to the writer making you feel like you're there, all right? So let's go down a little bit further. The lights grow brighter as the earth lurches away from the sun. Oh, lurches. That's a weird word. I'm going to highlight it because it's a weird word and then come back to it later, see if I can work it into anything. The lights grow brighter as the earth lurches away from the sun, and now the orchestra is playing yellow cocktail music and the opera of voices pitches a key higher. Okay? So they're all getting excited. And remember what I said about it's sensory information, isn't it? All right? It's, you know, as if you are there because the writer is building this full picture of this place, yeah? What you can see, what you can hear, what you can feel or smell. So laughter is easier, minute by minute, spilled with prodigality. I've never actually said that out loud as a word. Wasteful luxury. Oh, luxury is a good word to be using about this, to be fair. Yes, luxurious it is. So spilled out with wasteful luxury, tipped out at a cheerful word, so everyone's laughing. The groups change more swiftly, swell with new arrivals, dissolve and form in the same breath. Already there are wanderers, confident girls who weave here and there among the stouter and more stable, become for a sharp, joyous moment the centre of a group, and then excited with triumph, glide on through the sea change of faces and voices and colour under the constantly changing light. Look at that there. All right. What have you got there? You've got a metaphor. You've got listing. Okay. You've got that just that sort of like detail that really makes it seem vivid. Why does it seem vivid? Faces and voices and colour. So it's impressions on the senses, isn't it? Suddenly, one of these gypsies in trembling opal seizes a cocktail out of the air, dumps it down for courage, and moving her hands like Frisco, dances out alone on the canvas platform. A momentary hush. Okay, again, even though it's not noise, that idea that like it's the senses again, and it sort of brings you into the moment, makes it seem particularly vivid because it's using those sensory, that sort of sensory information. The orchestra leader varies his rhythm obligingly for her, and there is a burst of chatter as the erroneous news goes round that she is Gilda Gray's understudy from the Follies. The party has begun. Okay, so from that last paragraph, for example, maybe you didn't get a lot, all right? Maybe you read through it and went, what happened there? No idea, all right? Maybe you got the idea that she danced out, you know, so that's great. And the idea of like that momentary hush, I think is great. But do you know what, guys? At this point, we've got quite a lot already, just from what we've already sort of highlighted. If we can bring that in, then brilliant. But otherwise, don't worry about it too much, all right? Maybe you could say something about this last bit. I don't know, all right? I'm going to take this quote and just show you how I would start this response for question 4.